Hey everyone, welcome back to the Matt Report podcast. As always, your host Matt. You can subscribe at mattreport.com/subscribe. It's the best way to join the mailing list. Stay connected and search for us on iTunes. Just search for Matt Report or even WordPress Podcast, I think. We want to continue to stay the number one rated WordPress podcast on iTunes. It would be amazing. Somewhere around 70, 75 5-star reviews right now. We'd love to hit 100 by the end of 2016. And like we said in the last episode, that should be pretty damn easy, right? We've probably got about 10 months left to get 25 or so reviews. I think we can do it. Go ahead and find us in iTunes. That would be awesome. And today I have an interesting guest, not somebody who's specifically focused in WordPress design or development, but he speaks to a lot of people. He talks to a lot of people and interviews a lot of people on his own podcast where I was a guest, the Businessology podcast. Jason Blumer. Jason, welcome to the show, my friend.
Matt, thanks for having me, man. I got about 21 iTunes 5-star ratings on the Businessology show. So if I could only have as many as you, it would be awesome.
You deserve way more, let me tell you. Let me tell you.
I probably don't ask people to do it enough, so oh well.
So today I'm recording in my dining room, which is not the best audio quality, and I feel like it's a sin sitting here doing this with you with your primetime setup.
No, I'm just glad to be here, man. I appreciate you having me. It was awesome having you on the Businessology show, and I'm pumped to hopefully share some wisdom for your many listeners.
Awesome. One of the things that you asked me on the show was, so how do you make a living? What do you do, right? And, here I am thinking that, you're just this, unsuspecting podcast guy, and then you go to jasonblumer.com and you're like, holy shit, this guy does a lot, right? I thought I did a lot. This guy does about 10 times more. So what do you do for a living? Fill my listeners in.
Yeah, so I tell people I'm a starter, not a finisher. So I guess I've surrounded myself with a lot of good people. So I have a number of businesses, like to start different businesses, and as I get those off the ground, I typically will bring in a partner or something like that, or strong team members that'll kind of start leading some of the service. So have 3 or 4 businesses. I run, I write, some ebooks, and I have 2 podcasts. I've been doing podcasting for about 5 years. And I float on 2 sides. I'm a consultant, and I speak to the CPA world. So how to run a firm more strategically, how to make money and price. And a lot of that rolls over into the world where I coach, which is for mainly design agencies, development agencies, marketing agencies. And speak on that side too. So was that, WordCamp in Atlanta? That's what it's called, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
WordCamp. So yeah, I bridge 2 worlds, really, consulting with CPA firms and then consulting with design and creative agencies. Really,
it's amazing. I think it's it's just such an awesome strategy to be in that space. And maybe you didn't specifically, or maybe you did, but maybe you didn't specifically set out to say, hey, I'm going to talk to designer and developer folks, and then on the backside of that, sort of be able to offer my services. But I think it's just an amazing crossroad that you sit in to be able to absorb and really be boots on the ground in a world where I think that a lot of folks who might be CPAs, like you kind of think of, I think of my math teacher from like high school, right? Is the first first person that comes to my head. And I'm like, God, this is such a boring field, and Excel sheets and charts and stuff like that. And I see this, and kind of going off on a tangent, but I see sort of people in that space, following the likes of like a Gary Vaynerchuk or, some kind of high-powered internet celebrity. And they're just thinking to themselves, oh, shit, this is such a cut and dry field. It's kind of boring. How can I make it on the internet? I don't even get it. And I think that you found like a superb way in there. Was that sort of a strategy of yours, or?
Well, I guess, I wasn't the math teacher guy. I was in college. I had long hair and was in a rock band. So I'm like, so 2 years into that, playing in this rock group, I'm like, I think I'm supposed to major in something or something like that. And so my dad was an accountant, so I picked that. So, I really didn't do a lot of really good planning as I went into my career of being a CPA. But I did find I've been in, public accounting, been a CPA for about 20 years, and I found you can actually be an entrepreneur and run a firm. It was hard to do at first because we started, changing some of the way we did things online about 6 or 7 years ago. And then really technology started being built for our profession. Like your profession, I mean, y'all are all about technology, but we're not. So we even had to wait sometimes for people to build certain kinds of tax products that our team can use in a browser-based, environment. All that stuff was stored in huge servers in the back of some big closet that kind of locked you into an office. But as that started changing, you just see, opportunities, and you start taking them. And they were hard, but a lot of them paid off. So our firm is now, we're virtual. We're exclusively committed to the creative field, and that's the only people we'll work with. And we're fully value price. We don't do any hourly billing. So a lot of those changes were hard in the profession of public accounting, but I don't know, the world's changing. We can really do things in a lot of different ways. Like, I mean, you're a developer, but you're kind of known as a podcaster now, content, all that, so content and the way we can use that to leverage who we are and our brand, it's just pretty mind blowing. And it helps even in the field of creative accounting.
Yeah. One of the things that sort of I'm always looking at and find it interesting is, and most listeners know that we're expecting a child in July. So
congrats.
Thank you. So we're doing like the whole, like, going to the doctors, going to the hospitals and all those things. So it's funny. It's like in my world of like development and client work, it's like we are expected to map everything out. Here are the stages. Here are the phases. Here are the milestones. This is what we're all going to do. And as we go through, we're going to check this stuff off. Do you like it? Yes or no, Mr. or Mrs. Client. But then you go into all these other career or areas, these professional areas like medical, like accounting, and things aren't really like cut and dry like development, right? It's not like on or off. It's always like, well, we don't know. And it's just like, well, this drives me crazy because it's like we're the ones that have to like sit there all day and go, yes, we're going to hit this mark under this hours, under these budget parameters. Yeah. And then you go into these other fields that are either governed by government or, like taxes and insurance and medical. It's just like, wow, what a difference. No wonder the technical entrepreneurs are looked at as disruptors, because I just feel like we can manage our industry a little bit better to some degree. So it's just an interesting sort of contrast.
Yeah, well, that is a hard part of being an entrepreneur and trying new things in a profession like ours, because it's regulated. So I have a license that's regulated by state law, and it's not a very restrictive license, thankfully, but it is regulated. So there are things you have to obey the government in certain ways. You have to renew your license. You have to have so much education, and but I think what's happened is our profession, and again, we're talking about the CPA accounting nerdy world. A lot of them make assumptions that because of those restrictions, we can't innovate, we can't create. We have to do the same thing we've always done since the turn of the century, and it's not true anymore. We can actually live ethically within some regulations and still be very creative, create content. I mean, you can do a podcast. You can create communities for entrepreneurial accounting firm owners, which is another business I have. There's just so much we can do now, and restrictions just don't bar us as much as we think. And some professions are even harder. I think medical would probably even have more restrictions, a lot of HIPAA-based government compliance things that would even apply to developers if they're trying to build, online products for these medical places. But you can innovate at anywhere you are, and when you lie to yourself and think you can't change the way things are, that is no longer true. And I have an example. Can I share an example?
Absolutely.
So as a CPA, people go, wow, you're going into busy season, right? The busy season is tax season. Well, we didn't like that season, so we changed it. And almost every firm, if you say, "Hey, just don't have a busy season," they'd be like, "Well, you're smoking weed. Of course, we have to have a busy tax season, but you don't have to." So we changed our model to where we serve agencies and the owners. We don't serve just individual tax clients anymore, and those are the ones that drive the busyness of a season. Because you don't know them except one time a year they come and dump all their paper on you and you do a tax. We said no more. We're not going to do that anymore. And so it's very disruptive to the business model. It changes your cash flow. But if you do it right, now we don't have a tax season. But there are assumptions surrounding professions, and there's assumptions surrounding yours. And probably even people listening are going, those assumptions are causing me to do things the way I learned at some agency I left. That is totally not true anymore. You can almost change any business model, pricing model, team model, any way you want. It's hard and it is disruptive, but it's often very worth it. The long-term payoffs are awesome.
Yeah. Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
One of the last episodes that I listened, because I am a faithful listener, by the way.
Yeah.
And one of the last agencies you spoke to, I think it was about, he was a creative agency out in LA and he had to fire his biggest client, which took up 80% of his revenue.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, generated 80% of his revenue. But,
Yep.
For specific reasons, kind of like what you're saying is we're saying no to this type of client.
Right.
And in my space, the folks that listen here, just like the folks who listen to your podcast, they're looking at it going, you know what? I'm done with the $1,500, $500 website. Like it just doesn't make business sense to me anymore.
No.
There's fear that goes along with that, but are there any actionable advice you could say to kind of squash that fear from somebody saying, you know what, I'm only going to take on $10,000 projects from here on out? What kind of advice can you give for that person?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a process. So one of my specialties is I help agencies grow. And I've practiced growing companies a lot. I've grown a number of mine. I've also run some in the ground, and have gone into debt, and they went out of business. So I've had a lot of experience growing companies, and I even still do things wrong and can't see my own issues. But in growing a company, it takes time. It's a process, and so I'm learning. If you know where you are now and you're selling sites for $1,500 and you want to get to $10,000. Depending on your size, the number of team you have, and the type of clientele you work with, that could take 2 to 3 years to do. So sit back and let's work through it. But you can make the change. There's a lot of issues. There's the confidence you have in selling the sites. Like you wake up one day, I'm going to sell $10,000 sites when you've never done it. It's a whole nother game because now the client's expecting many multiples of value in return, as opposed to a $1,500 site. So you got to know how to sell that. You got to know how to get rid of the old clients, because when you begin selling to larger clients, you've kind of cut your client base in half, which basically means I have legacy clients and they all understand me to be a low-priced provider. And now I'm selling to larger agencies and they now understand me to be some high-value thing that I'm trying to pitch into them. So you've got different clients with different perceptions. And so eventually it's often healthy to move the older ones out. But they're cash flow, so you got to be careful how you move them out. Typically, you would move them out as you bring one in. So if you bring in a $10,000 site, you could move out 2 or 3 of the smaller ones. And typically, if you've done those $1,500 sites, now they're the ones that annoy you with those maintenance requests that are just asinine. It's like, please, it's WordPress. You can do that yourself. Would you please leave me alone? But one site can cover 3 or 4 of those small requests. But it just takes time. I've done that multiple times. I've churned our client base 2 or 3 times in the time that I've worked, meaning we had one client base one year and it took 3 years to change it. It's now one whole new one. And then we changed it again probably over the next 3 or 4 years. And it's just as we learn and we serve larger agencies, we have to move some of the smaller ones out because it affects how our team serves. Our team serving small requests from small agencies is much different when they're doing a full controllership daily commitment to a team, to an agency. So you have to, consider what the impact on your team is when you sell to different types of clients. So I guess my biggest advice is, hey, sit back and let's do it the right way, which means take your time. Obviously, I'm a coach to agencies, so I think having a coach is very helpful. That knows all the potholes that you're going to run into, but that's even an investment too. But so I don't know. Take your time. I guess that's my summary of all that.
Yeah. No, that's great stuff, because a lot of people think that everything is just going to happen, one after the other, and the chips will fall in the order that they expect them to, and all that fun stuff. I mean, it takes time, and one of the biggest things I think is just being able to. What doesn't take time, in fact, is just digging down and saying what I'm capable of right now, what even my small team is capable of right now, is looking at that and saying, I am 110% confident in what we can do right now. Really looking at that as valuable, because a lot of folks, I think, as they're trying to scale, even when I'm thinking back like 3-4 years, like as they're trying to scale and ask for more dollars, inside them, they're thinking, well, Jesus, we could never charge $5,000. We could never charge $10,000.
Yeah.
When in fact, you probably can. And you just have to get to the right person who does find that valuable. And I'm working on a project right now where sort of our line in the sand for 2016 is to be as profitable as we can faster, right?
Yeah.
So we found ourselves with a real capable team. And as we get into the bigger clients, we're bumping heads with other agencies and boutique agencies going, we would have never built it that way. I don't even think they even know what they're doing. How did they get $75,000 for this, right?
So your confidence level is going up.
So this confidence spike is now going through the roof. And now we're saying,
Very
what?
cool.
We can charge more, and which is going to bring us into the $50,000 to $60,000 range for sure this year.
Nice.
And we're a small team. Now, I bring that up because I think a lot of folks are lacking that confidence. And what you said before is you're trying different things. You're churning sort of old clients. And what I like to say is, you're casting a net off the back of a fishing boat and you're pulling in these fish, and sometimes too small, throw them back.
Right.
Others are, hey, this is just right. I'm going to try this. And then sometimes you stumble upon a new one and you're like, well, let's go fishing for those. Right.
Yeah.
And you might not like what you get when you go fishing for those eventually, but at least you tried. And I think that people have to find a balance between what they know they can do and finding new stuff at the same time. Sometimes it's chaos. Sometimes it's chaotic. But it has to be done.
Well, it's all part of the process. I mean, just all the stuff you're talking about is how to grow a company. One thing I've learned is that growing a company is a very experimental behavior. So there's and especially in your profession, there's a lot of they're better than me, or they're the speaker, and nobody knows what they're doing.
That's correct.
And in fact, that's actually how you build a business. The way you build a business is you innovate new services, you place a price on those, and you try to go sell those to people that may perceive new value in those. It's a big fat experiment. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how that affects your business model, your cash flow. You don't know till you get into it. Now, what you may know is what you've been doing, right? I know how to sell, I don't know, $25 plugins per month, or I don't know, but you sell them for more. So moving into that new area to sell a plugin for a different price, a more value-added type price, maybe you're going to put some service on the back end of that they typically don't get with other plugin providers or something like that. You just don't know the way forward. And I guess I would want everybody to understand that nobody knows what they're doing. If they're growing a company right, they're actually trying new things that they don't know if they'll work yet.
Yes.
And that is the sign of a great owner. Now, one thing I've always done wrong is those are risks. Basically, what we're talking about is taking risks. And if you're a business owner, you're required to take risks. That's how you create new value and create new profit. But if you can take risks that are not good, which I have I like to do that. And so I'm learning to not do that. I have a partner that balances me and helps me not take those risks, so that I've been running businesses for so long that I can almost identify the risks I'm going to take that are going to work now. But that's a skill you learn over time. So I guess I just want everybody to not think somebody else has it figured out, because that is not true. That's why you see some agency that you love and you go, wow, they're amazing. And then they like close their doors and you're like, huh? It confuses us because we had some presumptions about them that they had it all figured out. And your world is all about a nice site that perceives great value on the front of it, when really, but internally, it's still hard. It's still hard for everybody, and none of us we don't know what we're doing. We're all trying new things. So I don't want anybody to be confused that they think somebody else has it figured out. It's just not true.
Right. And in this space, at least in the WordPress world, in the circles that I run in, there's an inherent health factor to all of this, right? Because there are people, and even me, I'm looking at some like year-end reports from people, because they're all sort of posting them now, right? And that's the other interesting thing about our space. Like, we're all so open, right? And we're talking about how much money. So like, you're seeing like people that are like, doing like $300,000 for their first year of selling plugins, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what the hell did they do, right? That got them to 300,000, and we've been doing it for 3 years and we can't even get to 100,000. Yeah. And you really start to question yourself. And if you are somebody who just looks at all of that stuff, you really start getting down on yourself. And it's not a good thing, because we're all siloed, working in our own little digital worlds. We're not showing up to the commuter rail every day, going to a big box job. We're all by ourselves in our home or in our coffee shop. Yeah. And these things can take a toll, I think. Not to get off on a tangent.
No, but it just highlights something that that agency that does plugins only, maybe they reach 300,000. They're different from you, because maybe they're not serving clients in a high value way, where you're building these sites, you're building plugins you use in your own company, and you're like, hey, does anybody else want to buy this? So that's not your main business model. From understand, you might correct me, but of course your sales of plugins are going to look different. But you know what? We just compare, and we're like, I suck and they're awesome, and that's so dangerous. Yeah, it really screws with your head in a big way, and you gotta be careful about that stuff, because it can put you in the dumps. You're like, screw this, I'm going to go get a job, and no, maybe you're the person that should be running a company, because you can weather through those ups and downs, and it's all required. Yeah. You got to hang in there for the long haul to build a good business.
Let's explore, as a good segue, hopefully, is some of the biggest hurdles that you've heard other either boutique agencies or freelancers bring to your own show or consulting practice. A little preface to this is the number one thing that I got from you, which I think I told you on your podcast, is the whole belief document, right? What we believe in, and getting the communication down with the customer as fast as possible. So there are no surprises. I know that was one for us. But what else? What else have you found in your journey of talking to folks that they really struggle with?
Yeah, well, we specifically try to interview agencies, and we specifically try to coach agencies too in my firm that are growing and that understand how the heaviness of growth. And I would say probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, and one of the most wonderful things I've ever done, is built a team. That's just another exercise in thinking you're an idiot, and then thinking you're so awesome. Just so much emotions goes into building a team. But I can say, without a doubt, if a large agency is doing really well and making a lot of money, they have figured out how to leverage a team. And you're going to find in that agency, the owner has stopped doing work. They don't micromanage people. They hire people that are smarter than them. And probably as the CEO, they really don't know every detail that's going on in the company. And I know that sounds weird, but there gets a point for an agency that's large enough to where the owner has had to say, all right, I'm going to divest my brain of the details and things that I just can't keep in my head now that we have 20 people on our team. And I'm going to go focus on the things I'm supposed to do, which is be the face of the agency. I do the selling and pricing typically at that level. But a lot of times they're moving into leadership roles where they're really trying to help their team become better at what they do. And that's kind of the level I'm at now. So the way we sell is I bring agencies in, we do a kickoff, and then I hand that relationship off to one of our CPAs. And then from that point on, the CPA is the lead. They're in control. And my job and my partner's job is to move all barriers out of the way of our team to blow the minds of our clients. So I am at their service. And it's, a lot of owners resent that. But I'm like, listen, whatever I have to do to help make your job easier, let me know. And so they know. They call on me. They tell me kind of what to do. They say, here's where I need support. And I step up and do kind of what my team tells me to do because we're leveraging a team of smart people that are smarter than me, and they're now on the front line of giving that service to that client. So I need them to have no distractions, no barriers to service in their way. And I'm the owner. I'm the one who is legally able to remove those barriers. Like we just had a team, their Mac laptop just kept dying. They're going to Apple to the Genius Bar. I said, we're done. New laptop's on the way. Stop thinking about it. Stop changing the battery. Stop going to your friend trying to find out what is it. You are now focused on a piece of hardware, and I really don't want you to focus on that. I want you to focus on the client. And so leveraging a team is really hard. It plays mind games with you, but the big agencies do it well. The big agencies you have no choice but to leverage a team. So if you struggle with hiring, you want to micromanage everybody, you want to know everything that's going on, you're going to probably struggle in growing a company. And that's a big struggle, but that's probably going to be the truth.
Yeah, one of the things that, because I know some of the responses that people will have is, especially the freelancers that are out there wanting to grow a team or even bring on a partner, is how can I afford this, right? Especially in the WordPress space. I hate using the term, and a lot of people do, but it's WordPress rockstar, right? Everybody's like, hey, I want to find a WordPress rockstar, which goes beyond just knowing WordPress, but it's about developing for WordPress and developing for the stack of WordPress, right? And I've had interviews with these people, and they are like, yeah, I'm a WordPress rockstar. I'm $150 an hour. And that's my rate to an agency. My regular rate to my customers, $175, right? So you're thinking to yourself, well, there's no way I can hire you on a 60-hour project for that price because we've just lost money, right?
Right.
So the best advice I've always had, and the way I've only done it, is to recruit people who are, I don't want to say inexperienced, but they're either junior developers or they're just getting into it, and my A people on my team sort of coach them up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Bring in the resources that they lack or the knowledge that they lack in some supportive role, but to be super honest with the people that we're bringing on and say, hey, look, we can't pay you top dollar. Quite honestly, you might not be worth top dollar, and I think you know that because that's why we're having this conversation. But just know that we're a small team, we're like family, and we're here to help you get better at all areas. That's been the only way that I've been able to do it. I don't know if that's the smartest way to do it or not.
We do. Yeah, we do. Listen, we do the same thing. I even wrote a post the other day, or not the other day, but last year sometime, called "No Rock Stars," and it was really about we don't hire rock stars, and whatever the connotation you think that means. We excuse me, we hire for the fit of our culture. Number one, we have to hire for the fit of our culture, and collaboration among our team is really important, and that means a whole lot of things. And we have onboarding for the team where we explain what that means, but everybody on our team is going to be doing a lot more than their job. They're going to be commenting on the pricing I'm creating, our processes, like them, how would you change them? Here's what I would like to see us do as a firm. Hey, you sold a new service, Jason, but we don't know how to fulfill and execute that service. So when you do that again, why don't you try this? So, we require them to be that. So we're looking for really great people, not great CPAs.
Right.
Now, they're going to be pretty technical in nature, and they have to have some technical abilities to do what we do, just like in your profession. But yeah, trying to find the rock stars is often not. I don't think that's the best way to build a team. It's not the most economical because you got to pay this huge rate, and you may not even get the value out of that rate you're paying to that rock star, especially if they want to be left alone in the corner with their headphones on, which you can't do in our firm. We need everybody talking and spending time together. So I like how you do it. I like finding maybe the little less experienced people. What we did is we found a group of people in the country, since we're virtual, we hire all over the country, that are undervalued, and that's stay-at-home moms. And that's our hiring pool. Now, finding them is hard, but we know who they are. And these people, I mean, they have some young kids at home, but they are amazing. But they can't work in a traditional firm. So we found them. They want to work, but they can't because they have young kids at home or something. And we go after them. We say, we have the place for you. You are fully autonomous. You are not controlled. You're not managed in any way. We don't even know what you're doing, and we pay you a percentage of the revenue that our clients pay us, and that means you'll get paid pretty well for a part-time job. And so we found a hiring pool of people that are perfectly fit the type of culture we're trying to build, and we just kind of go after them now. We just kind of stumbled on that and kind of figured it out. But if you can find a group of people, like, I don't know if they're younger people, less experienced, but maybe they just came out of some tech school or startup or something that really gave them some pretty solid foundation of learning. Maybe they're the ones you can kind of train up to become a great team member inside of your culture. So I don't know. Culture is more important than technical abilities to me.
I 100% agreed, especially to the note about what you said about the typical rock star puts his or her headphones on and they go into the corner and they're like, call me when I'll call you when I'm done, right? Is what they say. And it's certainly like, I've run into that so many times that it's just infuriating because it's like, wow, you charge so much money, but the level of service, like, sure, you put out a good product at the end of the day, but it was just like, ugh, I have no other way to describe it.
Yeah. No, it's not fun.
No, it's not. What else? One other thing that you think that folks run into a lot in their boutique agencies or agencies in general?
Yeah, I would. There's a lot of things. I think a lot of times people are doing things that they could get paid for, that they're actually not getting paid for. So it might not be that you need to create a new service and try to charge money or even double the price for a website or something like that. It might be that you're good at doing discovery in a conversation with a client about what they really need, and that is a discovery session. I think you can actually switch up the way you do things and say, you know what, everybody that comes into our agency has to go through a discovery session. Actually, all we do is talk, and we probe the brain of the client, and we help them come to an understanding of what they truly. And we're going to start pricing that thing. So I guess I would want everybody to understand that if you're delivering any kind of value at all, then that has a price. And a lot of times we do this, and your profession does this, but we bundle a lot of things, right? It's like we're going to sell a website. When you're doing 4 or 5 things, which are very, very valuable, the discovery conversations up front are they're maybe the most valuable, to really find out what is our target that we're trying to reach. The design is a huge, part of, trying to, that brings huge amounts of value. The development is another huge piece. Well, these all have value, and when we kind of dump them in one box sometimes and just give them away, it's like, we're $1,500. When really, sometimes if you just separate those out a little bit and you start making your client walk through the process of consuming those services separately in order, you can get them to pay for those separately. And oftentimes when they go through the first one, like a discovery session that they have to pay for or something like that, when they walk into the design, the discovery obviously informs the design in a huge way. So now the design is extremely more valuable because you were smart enough as a business owner to require the purchase of discovery before design. And so now design is more valuable simply because they purchased the first thing. So value now is increasing sometimes just by breaking your services into steps and phases, and then pricing it in a different way. You can't always do that. Not every client's going to do it because they're comparing you to the last, web company that screwed them over or something for, they can get an $80,000 website for the $2,000 they paid them or something like that. And you're always going to deal with clients like that. But the right client who values you and trusts you, you could probably price more just because you're giving things away that are all bundled together. I've seen. Yeah. So that's often true.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially, the design and the discovery process. I think I'd probably say that's the hardest thing for most folks to balance between.
It is hard. How
much value they give out during that for free, right?
Yeah.
Like where it almost becomes a free consultation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Versus trying to stay tight-lipped during that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And just being like,
and
well,
not talking.
And
like, I'm not telling you anything cool, right?
Right. I'm not going to tell you anything. Right. So it is amazing. And again, like I've just been on this kick of the Gary V daily podcast. And he actually just had a conversation with a client of mine that, that he brought in. Now, again, massive client. I had a small little sub portion of this client.
That's pretty cool, though.
Come and hire me. But the overall brand went to him, and they're in the video, and he's having a conversation with them about what they should do. And I'm just assuming that's for their overall marketing for the entire brand. But he's like throwing out advice, like here's what I would do. And I see them all like in this video writing it down.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, boy, that's just like what a lot of people do to me. Right? They come in and they start like writing everything down. They say, hey, thanks for the conversation, Matt, but we're going to hire another firm.
Yep.
Or they're going to hire a bigger firm, which actually oftentimes I lose to a bigger firm just because they're a bigger firm. So it's just amazing just to kind of see like Gary Vee at that level, 600 employee agency, well-known obviously, but still doing the same things that we do in conversations. It's no different. Right? It's no different.
No. Well, and of course he's now a personality, so he's producing content for that video, so that's part of what he's doing. Who knows what he does in a real? I don't know. Was that a video of a real client meeting? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's his daily V thing, right? And it's just like they follow him around all day, and they go into real meetings with him, and it was legit.
Well, so I listened to his podcast. I might not have seen that one yet, but I just would not suggest that just because Gary Vee does it.
Right. No, absolutely.
I don't think. Here's what I think. I think the first conversation that you have with a client, we call that a value conversation. We got to figure out what do you value and what do you need. What are your pain points, and do we have what you need, and are we aligned? And are you the buyer? Are you the one that can make the decision and write me a check? If not, we don't need to spend a lot of time annoying each other and kind of playing games. So let's get to that real quick. If we have to say, what's your budget? If we have to, whatever we have to do to say, how can we help you and get to an answer, then we either move on from that client or we sell them our next phase, which is we require all clients to go into a discovery session with us. And as I guarantee, you will know more about what you need than before you came to us. So a lot of times, when you can make promises that kind of support your positioning and your price. And a lot of times when I begin coaching with agencies, I ask them, what are the promises you're making to your clients? And a lot of them they're not making any promises. And I don't, maybe that's not bad, but I think that's one way to persuade a client that you can help them. And the promises don't have to be, it's the best website in the world. None of that. It's really, it's things you can deliver,
right?
And it is we can tell people now, if we coach you, you're going to grow smarter and probably faster than if we didn't coach you. And that there's the statement, and they have to consume it and believe it or perceive it or not. And if they don't, then it's a good statement for them to move on or to go, wow, you made that promise. Okay, show me the price that goes along with that promise, and we'll see if we want to purchase those services from you. So I think a lot of us should be more clear about what we're offering. We should make promises about that. We should assign prices to our services. I love that. And a lot of people are changing. Instead of saying how much is a website, instead of saying I'm $75 an hour, actually telling them And you need to do some discovery to find out what that price is, right? Because you got to find out a lot about that client. Well, then do your work, charge them for that. That's valuable too. Uncovering what it is they need in the build of that site. So I don't know. I love making promises, and I love letting them perceive the value and the weight of those promises, comparing those to the price that I then share with them. I love that. It's very helpful.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about this field, maybe unlike yours, like when we talked earlier about sort of like the regulation and staying true to the government and all this and fun stuff that you have to do. The agency world, you could go at any point and sell a $100,000 contract, a $200,000 contract, providing the same things that you were doing for $5,000 a year ago, right?
That's right. It's a trip.
And it's not to say that you're, sort of just robbing money from this company, but you're providing a level of value that they perceive to be worth that amount of money, and you're delivering on it as well.
That's right.
You can't not deliver.
Right.
You still got to do the work, but what happens is you come with either 5, 10, 15 years of experience that you know better than anyone else. And that's the amazing thing about agency work. And that's what makes it fun for me, right? So a lot of people try to stuff it inside of a box at times. Whereas I think that you can be more creative and sign bigger contracts from finding that confidence, having a better sales pitch, doing a better job at onboarding, and really being true to the client. I think anyway.
Yeah, well, I do. I totally agree. And I think a lot of people are not being paid what they could be paid if they just had the confidence to raise their price. I think probably a lot of your listeners are already doing the things that represent a higher value. They're just not putting a higher price on it.
Exactly.
And I know it's hard. I know that is hard. Sometimes I'll pick a client and I'll go, I'm going to lose this one because I'm going to play around with the price, and I'll double the price, and I'll just see how they react. And maybe I won't win them, but I'm learning things through my pricing, and we need to experiment that way. But I do think a healthy agency is always considering their pricing and probably always raising their pricing in some way, because what they're doing is they're always testing the value that their market will absorb. And you always have to be testing what that ceiling of your price is. And the only way to do it is just to kind of throw it out there and kind of clench your butt cheeks together and hope they don't vomit their milk out of their nose or something like that when they say it. But you'll learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about the client. You'll learn what you have to do to be able to double your price. It's just pricing is so intimate and so important. It teaches you so much about yourself and really how valuable you are. So
well, I'll tell you one thing. It's a reassurance to hear you say this. From what I'm hearing, and let me just spin the table on you like you do to folks on your podcast. So what I'm hearing in this conversation is,
crap,
is you're staying right. It's staying dynamic. For lack of a better word right now, staying dynamic throughout this entire process, day after day. Like, just because you wrote your contract, it doesn't mean that contract's going to be the same in 6 months.
No.
I know it's different for me. We just changed it. Your prices are dynamic. Building the team is dynamic.
Yes.
There's a balance of chaos. And I guess if you ever find yourself feeling like, I'm pretty comfortable, I got all my processes down, everybody just checks the box as we go along and things are moving, there's something wrong.
That's right. Well, you're probably, if you're doing that, you're probably not a growing company.
Right.
Growing companies are always balancing the chaos, because you're always creating some new thing, trying some new thing, experimenting with some new thing. And the bigger you get, you find out that the owner's job, that's the owner's job. So now my job is to innovate. I have to think of new stuff, create a new price, create a new service. I got to just make crap up.
Sure.
And that goes over into the areas of content too. So I'm responsible for producing blogs and content and webinars and things like that. But ultimately, when you get large enough, that's what the owner does. They stop. They don't work. They innovate, and the team does the work. I mean, that you didn't build. You're not buying yourself a job so you can work.
Right.
If you own your own company, ultimately, now not everybody's that way, and that's fine. I'm just saying, if you have your own company and you want to grow that company, you're not in it to be a developer forever. You're in it to build an enterprise and leverage an amazing team that can do development a lot better than you can. What people won't do is they're scared to take the risks of owning a business. That's the different kind of people. And I've heard, Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, he says about 5% of the population, is that entrepreneurial in nature. They're the ones who will take the risk. Most people will not, and you can leverage those people as you grow your company. But you got to stop working. and start selling and innovating and pricing and trying new things. That'll be your job as your company gets bigger.
Yeah. Well, I want my guys to certainly listen to this podcast because I'm going to see, look, guys, when I come in with a crazy idea every 2 weeks, I'm doing it right. You think I'm doing it wrong.
What you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
That's right. You should not be in a corner developing. Though you have to. I still have to do technical work. Yes. I'm not saying... See, that's the balance thing. Now everybody's going to go, oh, he doesn't have to work. One day I don't want to have to work. That's not what you're supposed to hear. You're supposed to hear, I clean the toilets too.
Right.
I clean them a lot less than I used to, and I know I should not be cleaning them, though I often have to.
Right.
That is just a mindset of being a business owner. Yes, you have to do development. Other people are better than you, but sometimes you got to step in when you lose a person, and you just got to deliver the crap for the client so they don't, sue you.
Right.
That happens. But your job is to innovate, create new things, experiment, try new things, leverage a team, support them, and sell.
Right.
That's the stuff you got to be doing.
And we're doing this because we want the toilets to be there next year and the year after that.
That's right. We like toilets. So.
Right. That's an awesome talk about the agency stuff. I want to now just really quickly talk about the podcasting stuff.
Cool.
Because I don't even remember how I came across your podcast. It might have been like in a retweet, I think. And I was just like, what is this show about? Because I think you were asking like a general question to the audience, and you put it out there. I'd have to go back to just find out what show that was, what episode number that was. And I wrote in a question, and you guys answered the question on the show, and I was like, these guys are awesome. They know exactly what they're talking about. Yes, right. And I've been a fan for life. But how do you I don't even know. Is there anything you want to say? You know what? Let's talk about this. How difficult it is to be a podcaster in today's world. We were talking about it before the show started.
Yeah.
We got people like celebrities now doing their podcast. Tim Ferriss. How do we keep up? And how do we stay relevant in people's ears when all of these big names are coming out now? What do we do?
Well, it's a mind game too. So I've been podcasting for about 5 years, which is, in the podcasting world, that's some pretty long history.
Yes, sir.
So now the Businessology show's only been around a couple of years, but I've been doing an accounting type, cutting edge type accounting podcast because there are none of those, as you can imagine, or there weren't any when I started 5 years ago. And so I've been doing it a long time. And I think what I'm learning, because I have 5 years of history, is that podcasting it's like any other kind of content creation. It is about being just consistent, showing up day in, day out through the good shows, the crappy shows, wishing they were all amazing, but really, fighting through the feeling of crap, nobody's tweeting about the last episode I thought was amazing, and really just fighting through the mental barriers of really, truly, because I think podcasters want to give some good stuff away. They really want people to go, oh my gosh, I'm being changed by this information. And you don't get that feedback a lot. And so there's a void of feedback typically in podcasting. And so what I do is I've really just settled in my own mind that this podcasting is making me a better coach. And if the only person it changes is me and the person I'm talking to, that's plenty of value. If anybody listens and gets anything extra, then that's just, icing on the cake. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep doing it forever through the crap, the good. Dan Mall had to leave. That sucked. He was amazing. So, mentally trying to push through doing it on my own. I changed it up a little bit, but that was mentally hard to do.
Right.
And I've just had to consistently push through that. But we've moved it to be more consistent. So it's twice a month now. And it's a huge time commitment.
Oh, yeah.
just huge. And if you get some sponsors, which not everybody does, and that's okay, then you can hire an audio engineer to kind of put all the stuff together, because that's all pretty time consuming, and show notes, and just it's hard to do, but it's worth it for me. And I think it does help some people, even if I don't hear them tweeting how awesome it is. That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't do that too. I listen to a lot of podcasts just like you, and I don't always go to every one of them. You're amazing. I love you, and which they would love it if I did that.
Right.
But I don't.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm still getting tons of information out of their stuff. So somebody out there's listening, and I'm just going to have to trust that that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, how do you feel? Is that how you feel about it? Is it a mental game for you?
It is definitely a mental game. And again, I mean, just thinking back about the impact that even your show, as the Businessology show, as short of a time as it's been around and a shorter time that I've been listening, it's had a pretty big impact of me listening to that, and like seasons. When you guys brought up seasons, and then you guys, I've always known what seasons were, but then when you guys, we're taking a season break, we're taking like whatever it was, 2 months off or the summer off, I forget what it was, and I was like, God damn, that's genius, right?
Yeah. Well, Dan came up with that, and I thought that is genius. I loved it. Yeah, right. Amazing.
And just in doing things like that, and that's one of the things. There's actually a lot of WordPress podcasts, amazingly enough, as it is kind of weird to see. Like I always make a joke, like the in-person joke that I always tell when I either speak locally or do like mentorship stuff locally is, I'm a host of a WordPress podcast. It's like the highest rated podcast on WordPress podcast on iTunes. It doesn't get me any reservations at any local restaurants.
No,
right?
It doesn't.
Like nobody cares about a WordPress podcast, right? No. So it's just funny to see the difference of like online versus offline. But you're absolutely right. It sort of goes into this, deep dark void of, are people listening? Do they care? And not until you show up to like a WordCamp where people are like, man, I love the podcast. And when I hear that, that's what keeps it it going for me.
You're like, wow, people are listening. So it's. I think, it's, you got to be pretty consistent. Like I listened to one guy, his name's Todd Henry. He writes books about just, being a leader and running a company. And he comes from an agency background. Well, he's had a podcast for 10 years.
Wow.
And, I'm extremely impressed.
Right.
I don't know any human who's had a podcast for 10 years. He's had to just stick through the ups and downs of content creation. But in podcasting, you have to try new things. When I changed the Businessology show to be a coaching type podcast, because that's what helps me. And I can't help it, but I type notes when I coach, and people are like, "Stop typing in the background."
I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah, and I get that feedback, so I'm hearing, hey, the typing's annoying the crap out of me. The show is so awesome. If you will shut up typing, I will just love the show. And, you hear that and you feel beat up, but they're right. And so now I'm stopping and I'm having to write these notes somewhere because it's driving me crazy. But now, even the one I released yesterday, the Businessology show, was a great show. I'm not taking notes. So, but you know what? You freaking try stuff.
Right.
You're not gonna kill somebody. It's not gonna kill you. Try things, listen to feedback. It doesn't mean you're a horrible person.
Right.
Just change it up and get better. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. As a fellow podcaster, like I'm usually listening to podcasts when I'm like working out, like doing stuff outside or like shoveling snow or stuff like that recently.
Right.
And like I'll always chuckle because I'll hear you typing and then I can tell you're like trying to finish your note and then ask a question at the same time, and you're like, all right, hold on, let me just finish this. And
let's go. Gotta finish my thought. Okay, right. I got it. And so anyway, I'm trying to change for the listener audience, because now they're kind of the customer, even though they're not paying. I'm doing it for them. So I've stopped, everybody. Okay, thank you for the feedback. Let's see some 5 stars now.
Yeah, I know, that's right. Going over to Businessology, search for him on iTunes and give him some 5 stars.
There you go.
All right, Jason, this has been an awesome episode. This is awesome. I feel like we've run out of time. I want to talk about so much more stuff.
I know, man. It was good. Well, I don't get to talk to people about podcasting. That's pretty. It's a whole different world. So and you've been doing it for a long time. How long have you been podcasting?
Almost 3 years now.
Yeah. So you've got some history. That's long in the podcasting world.
Let me tell you, man. Yes, sir.
And you feel every episode, right?
Yeah, you feel and just like you said before, like you see people starting podcasts and you're like, man, look at that podcast. It's so awesome. And then in 6 months, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, these are harder than you think. Yeah. So, but at least you're trying new things. So.
I had an interview lined up with another podcaster and he never responded. Like we had an interview set up. I was going to interview on his podcast, and he never responded to the interview. And then I listened to his last podcast, and he said he was done doing the podcast. He didn't even respond to me. He didn't tell me he wasn't doing it anymore.
He's like, "Screw you, man! I ain't got time for this crap anymore. I gotta go work for a living." All
right, Jason, this has been an awesome episode, man.
Awesome.
Where can folks find all the different things you do, specifically the coaching? How can they get in touch with you? Because I know a lot of the people listening are in need of that, and I am in special internet disclaimer. I am not getting any kind of affiliation. I was not paid for this podcast. I just think that Jason does a damn good job, and if you are asking yourself these questions, contact him. Jason, where can they find you?
Yeah, so jasonblumer.com is just, that's my site where I put all the stuff I'm into and the things I do. You can reach out to me there to hire me there. We do serve agencies through Blumer CPAs, BLUMER CPAS.com. And that's where we serve larger growing agencies with teams, and we coach them and kind of support their financial back end, tax accounting software and payroll and all that stuff. And Twitter, Jason M. Blumer, and I'll talk to you there too. So, or you can even follow me on LinkedIn or what do you you don't be my friend on LinkedIn. You connect with me. Sorry.
You need to get on Snapchat and start doing
right. Yeah, my teenagers are on Snapchat. They would laugh at me, so I probably won't add another social platform. Sorry.
That's great. Everybody else, mattreport.com/subscribe. And again, I promise that we'll be sending out some emails this year and not just leave you hanging. So there is some value coming to the email list, I promise. Leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. That would be awesome. And it'd help us get found and help us beat out our guest here today on iTunes. So that'd be great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.